Quick heads up, I do full chart readings at astrologyrideoftheday.com if you want to go deeper. All right, let's get to it. The bill and the invitation. This is not a new story. It's the first exhale of one. On March 28, 2026, Saturn at 5 degrees Aries forms a sextile to Pluto at 5 degrees Aquarius. This is the first harmonious aspect of Saturn-Pluto cycle that began on January 12, 2020. And if you want to understand what this moment means, you have to go back. How far back? Way back. Not just to 2020, all the way back to 1982. Because this story started before most of us were paying attention. And some people were too broke to pay attention. The seed, November 7th, 1982. Saturn and Pluto conjuncted at 27 degrees Libra. This is the seed point, the beginning of a 37-year cycle that shaped the entire architecture of the modern world. 27 degrees. In numerology, that reduces to 9, completion. The cycle was born already carrying the awareness of its own ending. Libra is the sign of alliances, diplomacy, treaties, relationships between nations. What got seeded in 1982 was a specific architecture, a way of organizing the world through agreements, through partnerships, through careful balancing of the power between nations. The world that was built from that seed, the end of the Cold War, the rise of globalization, deregulation, the neoliberal economic consensus, the unipolar American movement, a 37-year structure built on Libra's promise of balance and diplomacy. But Pluto was in that conjunction too. And Pluto said, "Not so fast, my friend. Only if it's real. Anything false will decay over time." Then January 15th, 1990, at 17 degrees Capricorn, 17 degrees Scorpio, which was 7 years later after the conjunction, Saturn and Pluto formed their first sextile. Saturn in Capricorn, in its own sign, maximum institutional authority. Pluto in Scorpio, in its own modern rulership sign, maximum transformative depth. Both planets at home, the most dignified sextile possible. What happened? The Berlin Wall had just fallen 2 months before the exact sextile. The Cold War was ending. Fukuyama declared the end of history. Liberal democracy had won permanently. The New World Order was being born, and it looked like it was working. That was the false plateau. The sextile built the machine of global capitalism. The internet was underground, roots spreading, about to change everything. The Gulf War came months later. The new unipopular order announcing itself through force in the Middle East. In 17 degrees reduces to 8. Power, material mastery, karmic authority. The sextile that built an empire happened at the frequency of worldly dominance. The structures built at that sextile ran the world for the next 30 years. The waxing square hit in 1993-94. That was around Bosnia, Rwanda. The first World Trade Center bombing. The crack and the optimism appearing right on schedule. Then the opposition hit around 2001, September 11. The full moon of that cycle. Everything seeded in 1982, fully illuminated at once. Geopolitical consequences of unipopular dominance. The surveillance state born overnight. 2 wars launch. The cycle's shadow and full visibility. The waning square hit around 2009 and 2010. The financial collapse. The Reaganomics architecture visibly falling. Too big to fail. You know what they did? They just kicked the can right on down the road. Each phase asks the collective an accountability question. We know how people feel about accountability these days. Each time, the answer wasn't honest enough. The consequences compounded, and they all arrived at once on January 12, 2020. That was the reset. January 12, 2020, at 22 degrees Capricorn, Saturn conjunct Pluto, the conjunction that ended the 1982 cycle and seeded the new one. 22 degrees, chastisement, penalty, hurt. That's the frequency. But 22 is also the master builder. The highest master number, maximum building potential, and maximum penalty arriving at the same damn degree at the same damn moment. The World Health Organization confirmed COVID on that exact day of the conjunction, January 12th, 2020. Not the week before, not the week after, the exact day. Soleimani had already been assassinated 9 days prior. The entire post-1982 institutional consensus, economic, political, geopolitical, medical, simultaneously under maximum pressure. This was the chastisement, the 37-year bill arriving at the degree of the master builder. The old architecture didn't just age out, it was penalized out. But that is what 22 degrees does. It does not let false structures stand. Capricorn is Saturn's own sign. Saturn conjunct Pluto in domicile is Saturn at full authority, summoning Pluto's destruction into the very bones of the structure. The governments, the corporations, the healthcare systems, the supply chains, the physical infrastructure of our whole civilization. All of it simultaneously under the weight of 22 degrees. And underneath it all, the pattern that had been running since 1982. What pattern? What you talking about, Willis? I'm talking about Iran. Who? Iran. Iran was present at every single phase of this cycle without exception. 1982 conjunction, Iran-Iraq war at full intensity. The through line activates at the seed. 1990 Sextile, Gulf War I reshapes the Middle East months after the Sextile. The new unipopular order announces itself in the same region. 2001 opposition, Iran named the axis of evil. The through line at the full illumination of the cycle. 2009, waning square. Iran's nuclear program, the central geopolitical crisis of the period. The 2020 conjunction, Soleimani assassinated January 3rd, 9 days before the exact conjunction. The through line present at closing of the old cycle and the seeding of the new one. Now 2026 sextile, look where we at. Open conflict. 44 years, every phase. The same thread pull every time. This is not a coincidence. That is the cycle. The Middle East has been the pressure valve of every Saturn-Pluto restructuring phase in modern history because of what gets contested there. Energy, alliances, the agriculture of who controls what. That's exactly what Saturn and Pluto cycle through every time they meet. 1990. The battlefield was Kuwait. In 2026, the battlefield is in the clouds. The same region. The same underlying contest. Same planetary cycle. Different technology. Different century. But the same damn thread. And now we're here. Saturn at 5 degrees Aries. Sextile Pluto at 5 degrees Aquarius. The first harmonious aspect of the cycle that began at 22 degrees of chastisement. And the degree is 5. Marriage, pleasure, a little joy. That is what 5 represents. After 22 Capricorn's penalty, after 6 years of consequences, the cycle knocks on the door with something different in its hands. Not resolution, not the end of the work, but the first genuine invitation to build with joy instead of under penalty. Look at the sign numerology underneath it. Saturn in Aries, the first sign. 1, the origin. Pure initiation. Structure, meeting the most primal beginning. Pluto is in Aquarius, the 11th sign. A master number. Illumination. The bridge between the individual and the collective. Pluto transforming the very channel through which collective wisdom moves. 1 and 11. Marrying at 5. This is not just an aspect. That is a transmission. So what's the difference this time? The 1990 sextile arrived with both planets in domicile. Maximum dignity, maximum institutional confidence. The new order looking solid. It built empires. Now the 2026 sextile arrives with Saturn in fall in Aries. Saturn is weak in here. Reactive, combative, unilateral, not the measured institutional authority of Saturn in Capricorn. This is Saturn in Aries. And Saturn in Aries is the warrior energy. Direct action, no diplomacy. Fuck a negotiation. And here is the structural commentary the cycle was making. In 1982, the conjunction was in Libra. Libra built an architecture of alliances, diplomacy, and carefully balanced relationships. That is the world it's seated. Saturn in Aries is Libra's opposite. The sign of diplomacy and partnership being opposed by the sign of individual force and direct action. Saturn isn't just in a new sign. Saturn is actively dismantling the architecture the 1982 conjunction built. The sign opposition is intentional. The cycle is using its own geometry to tear down what it seeded. Pluto in Aquarius is not building top-down, centralized power structures. It's distributing power horizontally. Networks, collectives, decentralized systems. Whatever finds traction at the 2026 sextile will be looking nothing like what found traction at the 1990 sextile. 1990 built an empire. 2026 may launch a revolution. Here is what the 1990 sextile taught us. It felt like resolution. The Cold War was over. The wall was down. History had ended. And then the waxing square hit in 1993-94, and Rwanda happened, and the first World Trade Center bombing happened. Everything the 1982 seed had quietly grown into started becoming visible in ways nobody wanted to see. The sextile is not the climax. It's the first morning after. The waxing square of this new cycle is coming in the early 2030s. Whatever is being built right now, whatever finds its first traction at the March 28th sextile, will be tested hard then. The 2026 Iran conflict is not the end of that story. It may be the seed of the next chapter's climax. The invitation at 5 degrees is real. The marriage energy is real. But accountability doesn't disappear at the sextile. It just changes form. From penalty to responsibility. 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 From consequences to construction. From what the last cycle broke to what this cycle is being asked to build honestly. Every phase of the Saturn-Pluto cycle asks the collective a specific accountability question. Don't say it. The 1982 conjunction asks, when the old order collapses, what the hell you gonna build? The answer was Reaganomics, globalization, the unipopular movement, the privatization of everything. Everything? Everything. The 2020 conjunction asks, everything in the 1982 cycle built is ending. What kind of civilization will you choose to build next? That answer is still being written. The 2026 sextile asks, you can now see the shape of what is being built. Is this actually what you want? Because the square is coming, and whatever you're building will be tested hard. The cycle doesn't force outcomes. It offers openings. And those who recognize the shift from structure to system, from institution to network, from centralized power to distributed intelligence are the ones who can work with what the sextile is offering. January 12th, 2020, 22 degrees, chastisement, penalty, the master builder arriving under consequences. March 28, 2026, 5 degrees, marriage, pleasure, joy, 1 and 11, marrying at 5. 6 years, 1 arc, from the bill to the invitation. The world has been living under 22 degrees since 2020. Everything false has been under pressure. Everything built on unequal agreements has been stressed. Everything that couldn't hold the weight of Pluto's scrutiny has cracked. That was the necessary work. You don't get a 5 degrees without going through 22. You don't get the invitation without paying the goddamn bill. March 28th. This is not the end of the hard work. It is the first moment the cycle offers something other than consequences. It's the first exhale. The first morning where what you build can be built from a different frequency. Not under penalty, but under the possibility of joy. Plant something worth building. You don't want to be Jack with his beanstalk. If this resonates with you, leave a comment below. Come to IamAstrologyReadings.com. You can hit contact, leave a message there. I appreciate it if you like, share, subscribe. If you'd like to have a private conversation with me, I would like to have that private conversation with you. Come to IamAstrologyReadings.com, hit book it. The conversation is free. The time isn't. If you want to show your appreciation to I Am Astrology Readings, PayPal, Cash App, Venmo. Thanks in advance. I'm Paul Heath. This is I Am Astrology Readings. Know thyself. Balance your energy. If you like these daily horoscopes and want one personalized for you, same style, 3 minutes, about your chart, you can book a first impression reading at IamAstrologyReadings.com for $25 and I'll record it, drop it right here on the feed. Tips is also welcome, even $1 helps. Full deep dive readings also available. Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, all at I Am Astrology Readings. My brother's gotta eat too. I appreciate you in advance.